what's up? This is Gary from Raz Rentals, and I've really been looking forward to talking about this semi-brand new 2-pack from NECA for quite a while now, you know. You see, frozen here in this prison of cardboard and plastic is two of Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles' most classic side characters. Not necessarily from the TV show, but definitely from the Playmates toy line. You know, I've been oozing with excitement to get another Mutagen Man. Sure, we've just gotten 2 in the past year in the Ultimates line, but I'll take as many as I can get, you know? I honestly think that Mutagen Man makes some of the best Ninja Turtle toys ever, because his design is just so awesome. You know, I love the clear body with the disgusting guts displayed for everybody to see. You know, it's always cool to see how the toy sculptors put them together. And, you know, I was dying for a brand new Ace Duck because, let's face it, Ace Duck has been neglected for years and years. He's kind of like the C-list of C-list characters. And it's a shame too, because people seem to love Ace Duck. You know, even before he was announced in the NECA line, I'd see people ask NECA and Super 7 in their Ultimates line before they announced him, like, give me Ace Duck, like, we want Ace Duck. Put out Ace Duck, you know? This poor dude was in the second wave of the original toy line, but after that, you know, he got ripped off. He got ripped off in the Fred Wolf series, you know, only appearing very briefly, which I'll talk about soon. In the Archie comics, he was like this muscular wrestler who looked nothing like Ace Duck. You know, that completely confused the hell out of me when I was a kid. And then after that, you know, he had a small cameo in the IDW comics, very, very small, and he was just kind of like a tiny joke on a poster or something like that in the 2012 show. That's all. So it's really awesome to finally see him get some attention, you know, after every Turtle continuity has treated him so foul. All right, so time to quit blathering. It's time to get started. All right, these guys come packaged in the standard NECA 2-pack box art, you know? It almost appears like this window here is like the side door of the Turtle van. You know, it's opened and these guys are getting ready to leap out and attack the foot or something like that. I ordered mine directly from NECA. You know, I know some people were getting it, I think from overseas sellers earlier than that, but I ordered mine from NECA, and even some people who ordered theirs from NECA got theirs like a month or so before I got mine, because I didn't get mine until NECA had Anthrax and Scumbug in their hands. You see, the thing is, if you place an order with NECA for more than one action figure, and they get one of those action figures in their warehouse or whatever, they will hold on to that one action figure until they get everything else included in your order before shipping it to you. You see, it's all a part of that like super saver shipping or whatever it's called on their website, where, you know, everything is like a flat rate. You know, they don't want to send 2 boxes to you. They only want to send 1 to you. So if you were ever wondering, like, why the hell is everybody else getting the toys that I pre-ordered before me? It's probably because you ordered some other stuff with it too, you know. Well, at least I didn't know that until recently, but that's what I know. All right, so like I said, you have this huge window on the front here. You can see both of these guys in here, very nice. You can see those really cool accessories right up front there. On the side here, you got a nice thumbs up shot of Ace Duck. I love that. That's a pretty nice shot. On the side here, Mutagen Man is screaming in what appears to be anguish or something like that, you know. Poor Mutagen Man, you know, he's a tortured soul. On the back here, you can see that there is another nice shot of Ace Duck and Mutagen Man. They both look like they mean business. They got, you know, angry faces. It's a nice shot, you know, nothing specific. This description here says nothing about Ace Duck or Mutagen Man, so there's nothing really worth going over. Down here you have some pictures of the most recent 2-packs. In my opinion, these last 3 2-packs have been some of the best 2-packs we've ever gotten in the whole series. Especially Ground Chuck and Dirtbag. I don't know, something about that set was really amazing. I don't know, all 3 of them were just fantastic. I don't know which would be my favorite. They all offered so many cool things. So down on the bottom here, let's see what it says here. It says that sculpt and fabrication was done by Tony Cipriano. I think that's how you pronounce that. If I'm wrong, please let me know. And also Josh Sutton. All right, so I've waited long enough. Now it's finally time to open these guys up, and I will talk to you in a second. So here they are, free from their package and ready for action. Or in Mutagen Man's case, ready for some April kidnapping or April murdering. Depends on how he feels. My first thought is that Mutagen Man looks a little small, but he could be, the perfect size and scale that he appears in the cartoon. I'll have to wait and find out, just like everybody else. It's also kind of maybe just a preference thing where I just kind of think Mutagen Man should be like this big, hulking, disgusting monster, right? Generally, though, I'm impressed. It's always neat to see how toy sculptors build Mutagen Man with his giant clear case. There's some really neat accessories included in this set that, of course, I'll explain in a little bit. But, first I'm going to go over each guy individually. Talk about their Fred Wolf appearance, compare them with the original toy, and go over their articulation, paint, etc. First up is Ace Duck, because A is the first letter of the alphabet and all. Now you may be thinking, wow, Ace Duck. I had that guy back in the 80s and 90s. He was like totally awesome. He was one of my favorite toys to play with. What did he do in the cartoon? Did he start off as a bad guy, only for the Turtles to learn that he was actually a good guy? Did he shoot down some Dimension X plane or spaceship with some cool Ace Duck plane or bomber or something like that? Did the Turtles travel to a cartoon land and meet Ace Duck? The #1 cartoon star from the golden age of animation, sort of like the Real Ghostbusters episode, Who Are You Calling Two-Dimensional? Or did he like pop out of the TV screen and like start hanging out with the Ninja Turtles, much like that other Real Ghostbuster episode, Station Identification? Well, no, he didn't do any of that. He only shows up in the season 3 episode, Attack of the Big Mac. Now, blink and you'll miss him, poor guy. As the episode begins, the guys are watching an Ace Duck film festival, and Donnie switches the channel to April's special report. A whole 6 seconds of screen time. Yes, I timed it. And that's it. Can you believe it? What a ripoff. Now, if you think about some of the absolute losers that had a whole episode dedicated to them either fighting or hanging out with the Turtles, it blows your mind that Ace Duck could have been snubbed like this. So, because Ace Duck's bust only appeared on screen, NECA had to base their figure off of the original toy. Now, if it were up to me, I like to imagine that maybe Ace Duck is the star of horror movies. Sure, he looks normal up top, but down on the bottom, his body is grotesquely disfigured. He's got tentacles and extra heads, and when he walks, he poops eggs. Eggs that immediately hatch. What's inside? Baby ducks? You wish. It's spider anglers with frickin' laser beams on top of their heads. So real quick, let's see how the toy compares to the show. Well, he's got a hat. He doesn't have wings, That's all Playmates toys. And, that's about it, He's a duck, right? So good job, NECA, with that. Here you can see the action figure, and, he's a duck and he's got his hat. But like I said, he's got those wings. You can take the wings off, but I'll talk about that a little more later. All right, so let's see how much inspiration NECA got from the original Playmates action figure. What all did they copy? Well, first up, he's got that removable pilot's cap. Now, I think that both of these look awesome, but they're both kind of annoying. There are 2 versions of the original Ace Duck. There's one where there's a peg on his head. There's a peg in the hat and a hole in his head. I do not have the peg version. I just have the version that fits over the head. And it falls off all the time. And this brand new NECA one, his hat falls off all the time too. Oh my, I can't, are you kidding me? I cannot believe that didn't fall off. It's been falling off all day. I must have really pushed that on there. All right, so the face expression here looks pretty good. Ace Duck has 2 sets of eyes, and he has 2 different beaks. But I think that this combination makes him look the most like the original toy. He's got those big open eyes and that sort of sneer or, yeah, it's not a smile. He definitely looks a little angry. Ace Duck wears this really awesome bomber jacket. And I love this cool leather jacket. When I was a kid, I had a leather jacket, and it was the coolest thing. I used to walk around and tell people I was the Fonz and stuff. All right, so the original one, his is completely open. His whole chest is sticking out, and this new one, he's got it zipped up halfway, which is cool. I think that's a good look for him. The original one has this red symbol on that arm, his right arm, but there's not one on the NECA one. However, on the other side, he does have a symbol there. So that's cool. They both have a belt. The difference is, you know, the original one goes diagonally across his chest, and this one actually wears it around his waist here. You can't put the gun in the original's belt, but you can put some of the egg grenades. And this new A-Stock, you can put some egg grenades in the back of the belt. So that's cool. As you can see here, the original A-Stock's wings were very full. You know, they came all the way down to the bottom, sort of like he's got the tail there. This brand new A-Stock, they just stick out the back like this. You know, both work pretty good. They both look nice. No complaints, right? All right, so you can remove the wings off of the original A-Stock, and you only have that little tiny hole there, which, you know, that's not too bothersome. You know, lots of toys had holes and weird stuff around you, or you'd see like screw holes. I mean, his shoulders have screw holes. So to me, that is not like an eyesore. This brand new A-Stock, you can take out the wings, and you know, they pop out pretty easily, and you could just pop them right back in place. But unfortunately, you not only have two holes, but you've got like these big like indentations here where the wings went, and then like the symbol doesn't go into that. So you know, that is kind of a bummer. What I do like is that you know, the original one had just a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles symbol on his back. You know, I guess that's cool. You know. But the brand new one has this very cool logo here, this, you know, this rocket or missile or whatever. And then it has all these feathers on it, like these are all the other planes that he's blown up or whatever during battle. On the original A-Stock, you can see that he has a tail sculpted on his butt. But this brand new A-Stock does not have a tail. And I'm pretty sure that's because his lower body, I think, is the same as Vernon. Now, I'm going to take a quick or a closer look at that later, but I'm pretty sure that these genes are the exact genes that Vernon has. And, you know, when Vernon doesn't have a ducktail, so, you know, they're not going to include that. And then he just has little flippers, you know, down the bottom. All cool. You know, the original A-Stock, I feel like he's got enough room on the bottom here that this sculpted pose still stands very well. It's not like Donatello where he falls over all the time. And then, you know, just in the front, he's just got the blue jeans. You know, there's nothing special, no holes or anything like that. This is before Playmates got all nuts the next year with all their, you know, each leg had to have a different design and all that kind of stuff. So, you know, A-Stock was relatively simple, you know, compared to lots of other those, you know, a lot of those other Ninja Turtle toys. So, as you can see here, he definitely has the exact same pants that Vernon has. You know, nothing sculpted differently, all the same, even in the back here. Which I would imagine that, you know, underneath this vinyl covering here, he probably has the same exact torso that Vernon has as well. I can't see it exactly, but I'm guessing. Oh, look at that. Even with, I didn't notice this before, but like the shoulders here and then the elbow joints are the exact same as Vernon's too. It's just the forearms here are different. And even his hand is very similar. Oh, I guess no, because he's got different, he's got a different amount of fingers, but I don't know. The size is relatively the same. The original A-Stock was actually kind of interesting because he has a different shoulder joint than most Ninja Turtle toys have. Off the top of my head, the only other one that I can think of there are like the Wacky Ninja Turtles and also Tattoo. You know, most of them just have like a swiveled shoulder. But look at that. He's got like this pin here or whatever that goes across. That way you can get lots of rotation there. I don't know why. Why would they pick that for him specifically? I don't know. And then you just had articulation down at the wrists. You have ball joints in the hips. And of course you just have a swivel neck. And that's all you had, and that's all you needed. All right, so this brand new A-Stock, you know, he has some pretty decent articulation. But I also feel like, you know, some of my problems with double joints, some of the things I don't like about them is very, very noticeable on this action figure, and I'll explain that in a little bit. But first, here in the base of the neck, you have a ball joint. You do have a ball joint in the where the neck attaches to the shoulders. So you can look, man, look, he can look straight down. That's pretty cool. And that's about as high up as he can look. The shoulder joints here, they swivel, and they have a hinge. He If he does have articulation, it feels like it's right in here in the torso. But I mean, the jacket is like so thick that you can't really move him around too much anyway. You can rotate him, and I don't believe that he has rotation in the waist. Oh, maybe, I don't know. I can't tell. There's this thing like covers up most of that. All right. So back to the arm. Now here is where I'm talking about where I do not like this. You know, I don't like double jointed shoulder or elbows like this because look at this, right? You might be like, oh, look at all that, you know, movement he gets. He can get really close with his hand to his face, but it makes his arm, you know, look like a sausage. Like that is no good. So what I do with these double jointed elbows is I just pick the lower joint down here and I just bend his arm right there. And to me, that's all I need, I guess, for movement wise. And you know, that looks fine. Down here at the pelvis, he has ball joints. You know, you can rotate them forward, side to side, and back, and all that kind of stuff. And you can also rotate them around. Not to mention, you have an extra cut here at the top of the hips, so you have 2 points of rotation, which is fantastic. Down here, the knees, you know, same problem as the shoulders. They can look a little. No, I lied. That's actually not that bad. That doesn't look too bad. But again, you know, I would like, I don't know. That's fine. The knee joint is fine. Down here at the ankle here, you have a hinge, and you also have ankle rockers. And oh, well, last but not least, right? You have these wings, and you know, of course, they plug in there, and they can rotate around this direction, and then they can also rotate along this hinge right here. That's all. All right, so Ace Duck has 2 interchangeable heads with interchangeable mouths, which is pretty awesome. You know, that way you can mix up your expressions and get different looks. You know, like here, he's kind of like, I don't know, is that like an excited look? His eyes are completely wide open, but he's got like sort of like a clenched teeth look. I don't know exactly what that is. But over here, you know, it looks like he's angrily yelling at somebody like, whack, whack, you're despicable, sort of thing, right? So all you got to do is, now I'll explain one problem too, is one of these pegs seems to be a lot bigger than the other mouth's pegs, right? Either that or one of the holes on the heads is smaller than the other hole, right? Because, you know, one of the mouths gets stuck in there and it's a little tricky to get it out, and the other one pops out of his head like it's nothing. So that's either the little one or that's the big hole. I don't know. So, you know, you can pop that off there, and then if you yeah, it's the peg, right? So now it just looks like he's like, you know, happily calling out to somebody, hey, what's up, how's it going, you know, whatever. Well, let's combine this look right here. I mean, now he just looks super, super mad, which is a good look for him, you know, especially if you want to have him attack some bad guys. But the problem with this was every now and then, while I'm trying to pose him, like the beak will move down, and I'll have to kind of stick it back up a little bit because it doesn't fit snug inside of that head. Scale for Ace Duck is pretty much whatever you want it to be, you know. It's a personal preference kind of thing because he never appears next to the Ninja Turtles or anything, right? So without his hat, he's, I don't know, the top of his head is around the same height as the Shredder. He's definitely a lot taller than the Ninja Turtles. When you put his hat on his head, you know, that definitely adds, you know, a little extra to his height there. In my own personal opinion, or like in my own personal preference, I guess, I would have maybe made him like a little shorter, but, you know, they built him off of that Vernon body. So, you know, there wasn't much they could have done with him. I mean, all in all, though, I really don't care. I mean, I think he looks good. And plus, it's nice to have a variety. You know, he's a somewhat taller, skinnier, lanky superhero that can hang out with the Ninja Turtles. In all honesty, this Ace Duck is quacktastic. Oh, come on, I had to. As I said, you know, I love seeing this dude get some love. Finally, after 30-some years. Ace Duck comes with some pretty awesome accessories based off of the original toy. And I know I haven't gotten there yet, but don't worry, I will cover them thoroughly when I get to the accessories part. NECA had a lot of freedom with this guy because there is no real cartoon reference. And I think that they made some great choices to appease the Ace Duck fans. Up next is one of my favorite Ninja Turtle characters of all time, Mutagen Man. As a kid, he'd make me feel like a little unsettled. Like, could you imagine if this happened to you and your guts were just floating around in a jar? You'd be an absolute monster. This is way worse a fate than turning into like a full-bodied mutant rhino or warthog. At least then you could still go to the bathroom. I imagine that this design, while cool, is probably a little polarizing for some Ninja Turtle fans. He's very similar to the original toy, but he's also Fred Wolfified. So his face, while creepy and gross, is also kind of silly and kid-friendly. The original Mutagen Man face and eventual Super 7 Ultimates Mutagen Man, his face just looks painful. Like his head is all squished in and his eyeballs burst out of his head. We'll take a closer look at that, at NECA versus Playmates soon. But first, let's talk about Mutagen Man in the cartoon. Mutagen Man appeared in the Season 5 episode, Enter Mutagen Man. More like Enter and Exit Mutagen Man. His story has a somewhat definite end, and he never appears again after this. Mutagen Man is really Seymour Guts, a delivery boy for fly-by-night messengers. If you live in a world filled with superheroes, giant mutant animals, mad scientists, and you've got a name like Seymour Guts, you had to have known where your life was headed. The first thing he should have done as Mutagen Man is gone after his mother, How could you doom me to this fate? So, Seymour is trying to deliver a message to the Touch of Romance flower shop when he accidentally stumbles upon Shredder, Bebop, and Rocksteady, who are carrying out Krang's next evil scheme. What scheme would that be? Well, Krang wants the Shredder to fill a rocket's fuel tank with mutagen, so its vapor trail will sprinkle mutagen all over the city and turn everyone into horrible mutants. The rocket is going on a 4-year mission to explore the surface of Venus, so its tanks, must be nice and big. There's only one problem. Shredder needs Bindex 3 to stabilize the mutagen, or else it won't cause permanent mutations. Basically, after Krang and Shredder, give all this exposition, is when Seymour steps into the building. Rocksteady and Bebop try to get him to leave, but instead, they blow out the floor below him, which causes him to fall into the vat of mutagen. I absolutely love this shot where his whole body has fallen to pieces. I loved weird, gross, horrific stuff like this as a kid. Stuff that made me feel uneasy. So Shredder, Bebop, and Rocksteady pull Seymour out and put what's left of him in this containment suit. Krang says that since Seymour fell into such a powerful mutagen agent, he needs a steady supply of that mutagen from the tank on his back to keep himself together. Mutagen Man is pretty unhappy about the whole thing, so he wishes he looked like Bebop instead. And that's when the villains all learn that he can shapeshift. The change is only temporary, so the Shredder tells him that, he has to go to the Ace Scientific Company and steal Bindex 3. The Bindex 3 will stabilize the mutagen in Seymour's system so he can permanently change back to normal. We all know the Shredder is a lying fiend, who only wants Bindex 3 for himself and his diabolical mission. But Seymour, however, is, naive and stupid, so he reluctantly agrees to steal the compound. At the Ace Scientific Company, Mutagen Man morphs into a security guard so he can steal the Bindex 3, but as he's trying to escape, the effect wears off, and he decides to morph into Irma and sneak out with April O'Neil. Once outside, April accidentally takes the Bindex 3 out of Mutagen Man's hands and loads it into the Channel 6 news van. Before Mutagen Man can take it back, his disguise wears off. And even worse than that, April heads for the Channel 6 building without him. Now Mutagen Man's left without the Bindex 3 and a ride home. If only Mutagen Man's transformation lasted longer, he wouldn't have to run and hide every time he turns back into a freaky monster. When April reaches the Channel 6 building, she discovers that she has the Bind X3, and that's when she decides to call the Ninja Turtles because she feels like there's something fishy afoot. She doesn't know what's going on, but she thinks she needs some help. So in order for the Mutagen Man to get into the Channel 6 building, now he has to distract the Ninja Turtles or lock them in a dumpster if he has to. Once inside the building, he morphs into Vernon. He grabs the Bind X3, but when he morphs back into Mutagen Man, April sees him. So, he does what anyone would. He tries to kill her, Who wouldn't? She's always getting herself into trouble, It's super annoying. He ties her to the cables of a tramway, that way she'll have a very nice, relaxing trip over the river before she reaches the end, where she will meet a bone-crushing, bloody death, Pretty gruesome for a kid's show, but, of course, the Ninja Turtles show up to save her. Now, what's crazy about all this, right, is that, April's on this tramway, she's heading for certain doom, and in all honesty, this should take like 3 to 5 minutes? Maybe 10, if you're being generous. It really shouldn't take long at all, right? But in the time it takes her to get from one side to the other, to meet her certain doom, Leo and Raph have a fight with some construction workers, a somewhat long fight. They meet up with the other Ninja Turtles. April calls them, and they have to drive all the way across town to get to her. In all honesty, she'd be mincemeat by now. She'd be completely dead and crushed. How does she survive this? Well, I suppose it's because they keep showing her get close to the wheel, and then, the next shot, she'll be like 50 feet away, only to get close to the wheel again, and then 50 feet away, It's kind of like when Sir Lancelot is running to the castle in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. He, just keeps on going back, and then they go to the two knights, and then he's, all the way back again, running forward, and they go to the knight. It's just like that. It's hilarious. On top of that, how the hell did April call the guys with her turtle communicator in her pocket? How'd it open? It wasn't there when Mutagen Man set her off. So how did she push the button for it to open in her pocket? April's magic. I wish my pecs could make phone calls. I'd be famous. So Mutagen Man brings the Bind X3 to the Shredder, and of course, Shredder double crosses him like the sneaky snake that he is. Not only does he take the Bind X3 for himself, but he also pulls out Mutagen Man's mutagen tube. How despicable. I love it. I love it how the Shredder just laughs at Seymour's dilemma, how vile. How evil. What a great moment in cartoon Shredder villainy. It almost makes me feel a little bad for Seymour, to be honest with you. Shredder and his goons head to the rocket so that they can fill up its fuel tanks with mutagen, and they leave Mutagen Man to die alone. I love how just before he leaves, the Shredder laughs, and he sounds just like Uncle Phil after he found some new way to punish Will. The turtles find Mutagen Man, and Donnie saves him. Such a kind turtle. Mutagen Man explains the Shredder's plan to the turtles, and everybody teams up to stop him. Wait a minute. During this scene, April just stands there and doesn't say anything. She doesn't care at all that this dude just tried to kill her. I'd be like, all right, Donnie, now that we know what the Shredder's up to, pull that damn tube out of his head. He just dangled me over a river so I could die a painful death. He could have shoved me in a closet or tied me to a chair in a dank basement, just like everybody else does every day. But no, he jumped to murder. So, Mutagen Man helps stop the Shredder and Krang. Donnie introduces the Bind X3 to Mutagen Man's gooey body, and Mutagen Man morphs into a handsome-looking dude. You can't blame him for that. I mean, he didn't want to morph back into that dork he used to be. So how does this episode end? Well, with April announcing on live TV that she's going to go on a date with Seymour. April, there's a ton of dudes out there. You don't have to fall for the ones that try to murder you all the time. Despite my jokes, I do like this episode a lot. Mutagen Man was such a cool design, and I like the story. Season 5 had a lot of great episodes, where they included a lot of the 1990 mutants, and I feel like this is a highlight. All right, so in the cartoon, you can see that Mutagen Man wears this a mutagen containment suit, or if you want to get technical about it, in the original toy line, it was called the Life Support System. So there you go. One of the things that I always liked about this and always thought was kind of funny was that he has pecs. It's like the Shredder felt bad for him, that he turned him into this gooey monster. He was like, you're a horrible, disgusting monster, but we're going to give you some pecs. What I do like is in the cartoon, they actually outlined them in white. If they would have used black, it wouldn't have looked as much like glass. So, it really gives off the illusion there. So that's good. You have a tube going into each pec. You have one in his forehead. Take a look at the shoulder pads. And also that he has that like pink piece on top of his head that the one tube is connected to. And now look at the action figure. And now here you can see, you have all those bits and pieces in the right place, right where you'd want them, I guess. Proportionately, things are, a little off. They're not perfect. I feel like he's got a longer torso in the cartoon, and he's just bulkier. There's a lot more space in his abdomen between his brain head and his puddle of mutagen. He probably appears like more filled out, I guess. Like the everything proportionally from his arms to his torso and stuff like that in the cartoon feel a little more natural, where maybe this action figure is a little like squished. If you remove the life support system, you can see Seymour a little better. As you can see here, he's left pretty much just a brain with big bulging eyes. He's got this little bit of spinal cord going down to his pants here. And now here is the cartoon. It's even more gruesome than I remember. Hey, wait a minute. SpongeBob SquarePants. All right, so here is the actual cartoon. Now, one of the things I like is that, the original toy was supposed to be filled with mutagen. He wore that cool glass case. That way you could see the mutagen and his guts all inside, all that kind of stuff. So if you look at him in the cartoon, he has a little puddle of green down at the bottom, and you can sort of see it through his pelvis because it's see-through down there. That all looks cool. When you come back to the action figure, he does have that. I really like the way this looks. I think it's modeled or sculpted very neat. It might have been a little nicer if they would have painted that green, like the inside of this. Not to mention, like, this little piece down here, it is supposed to be see-through glass. You're supposed to see that in there. I feel like they should have, like, indented that piece a little more, to give it more of the illusion that, I don't know, it's a separate layer than the rest of this pants, because right at the moment, it mostly just kind of looks like, that's painted green right there. So, like I said before, he is supposed to be in a, like a glass case or whatever, and even if you look at him from the back, you can still see, like, the back of his brain and everything like that. But if you look at the action figure, they made this back piece a solid piece of purple. I don't know why they did that. Maybe structurally it's a little stronger than the see-through plastic. I don't know. It seems like an odd choice. Maybe it looked like if you had it completely see-through, maybe you couldn't see like the head and the stuff like that in there as well. I don't know. For some reason they made that decision, but I can't explain why. He does kind of have like this extra, backpack, this purple backpack. You can see that on this action figure too. You got this purple backpack, right? And even the, these yellow bottles here, they all match the same details that you can see in the cartoon. However, there are some shots where you can't see those little purple buttons down at the bottom there. If you go back to that shot I just showed you, they are not there. However, if you look at some other shots, they are there, Here you can see his belt, it's nothing too stylized or anything like that, just because it has a circle on the side. Sometimes in the cartoon, that circle is like dead center, and then other times you have it on the side. The original toy has it on the side too, but, we'll take a look at that a little bit. Mutagen Man has, big beefy arms, I guess, with, like some metal bands, like, wrapped around them. I think all that makes a little more sense in the toy because you can see more of the details and you can kind of understand what is going on there with the bands. You look at the cartoon and then you look at this action figure and, the yellow arms look cool, but they do not look as cool as that original Playmates action figure because he just looks like he's got big muscular arms where the original one has like melted flesh and stuff like that, which is pretty fantastic. So anyways, you have these yellow arms and you have the bands, they all match. And then you also have like these spots all over the arms. You have this weird thing on the side here, and I know I've never understood what the heck this thing is on the original action figure, and I still don't get it. Is it like some sort of like lock mechanism or something like that? Is it like kind of keeping these bands in place? I don't know. What's the deal with it? Again, down at the bottom, the legs, they sort of have pretty much the same kind of style or design, where you have these big kind of hulking legs, and then you have these metal bands or harnesses around them. I do like that the one knee is sticking out. That's a very cool, detail there. Much like a lot of other Ninja Turtle toys at the time, he does have like completely different feet. So that to me is funny. I really like how this harness comes down and you have these extra like pipes here connected to the foot. I don't know. It looks pretty cool. This like giant metal boot here is pretty neat too. I like how that looks. Although I would say about this too, again, is that, because that is like right on the face of that boot there, it just looks like the boot is painted yellow. Like that should have been indented a lot more to try to give it some depth, And if you look at the cartoon, again, you can see all those details are there, Now, one thing I really noticed a lot in this episode is that they flipped Mutagen Man's model sheet a lot, and you can really tell because his body isn't symmetrical, he's not mirrored the same on both sides. So you'll have like I don't know, to me it really stands out that the tube is sticking out the wrong side of the head, or you have that little bit on his arm that I don't know what the heck it is. That'll be on the other side. Figuring out Mutagen Man's scale in the cartoon is not the easiest thing. There aren't a lot of shots of him standing right next to the Ninja Turtles, and this is probably the clearest one, And in my opinion, this shot looks like he is about the same height as the guys. One thing you can say is he is supposed to be a lot shorter than the Shredder, so there you go. And if you look at him standing next to Shredder and Michelangelo here, yeah, they match that up pretty well. I think that he is the perfect scale for how he appears in the cartoon. All right, so now it's time for the side-by-side comparison, the original Playmates versus the Fred Wolf NECA version. Now, I'm going to say some things, all right. So in my opinion, the original Playmates Mutagen Man is one of the coolest action figures to ever come out, right? So by simplifying it for the cartoon, they took away a lot of the super awesome gross detail. So in my opinion, the NECA version won't look as cool as the original Playmates version. That's not NECA's fault though. That's just how he appears in the cartoon. So, this isn't me saying that, NECA is bad or anything like that. It's just saying that I prefer the original Playmates version. But all right. So you have the life support system, and of course it looks pretty good, They still kept a lot of the details, like the shoulder pad designs with the lines going across are there. You have the tubes going into his pecs, and you have the one tube going into his forehead. That's cool. If you look at the belt here, they still kept that one big circle right there, but they just kind of erased all the other little details. I love, as I said before, I think it's hilarious that he's got pecs sculpted onto the glass body or the glass case container or whatever you want to call it. It's funny. And I just love the original one, like the guts in there. I just think that they're disgusting and they look awesome. And there's so much more guts on the original Playmates version. The NECA version or the Fred Wolf version, you just have the spinal cord going up and down, which is fine, but it's just not as cool, And how does he keep that head up top like that? How's he holding it up? There's no mutagen up there because it's all down here. So what's keeping it up there? Maybe he has telekinetic powers and you didn't even know it. One thing that they had to change for the cartoon, and I think, some of that is probably because it would be hard to read or something like that. Like, it just wouldn't have worked, I think, for the Fred Wolf series. Is they had to make his head a lot bigger. That original Playmates action figure, the head is very, very tiny in there, and just the eyeballs are sticking out. Here they had to, enlarge the face. That way you can, see his emotions and, kind of see his mouth moving a little more, which to me is completely understandable. Like I don't think that this design would have worked necessarily in the Fred Wolf series because he is too gross. He's a little too gruesome. I think you could have had something like this in the 2012 cartoon. They had Mutagen Man, but again, he was like, even in that cartoon, he was very simplified, and I don't think he was anywhere near as cool as this Playmates action figure. So if you look at the arms, one of the things I love about the original Mutagen Man is just how all of his flesh is melting off of his body. Like it can't keep itself together. It's getting all goopy and gooey. I imagine some of this would be sticking to the sidewalk as he's walking around, and it's revealing the muscles underneath. I think it really helps convey the whole idea of Mutagen Man that like he can't keep his body together. His even here like it looks so much more natural that like his even looks like his muscles are starting to push away and his bones are starting to stick out. Where here it's just like they're like, all right, we'll just throw a bone on the knee. Yeah, because that's on the original toy, so we'll just put that bone there. Like it just doesn't have the same effect, Now the spots aren't as noticeable, but I don't know, whatever. Here you can see the boot is very similar. It's just missing a lot of lines, a lot of detail right there. And I just, like I said, I just love that melting design. And I think that these like harnesses or these bands, I don't know, to me they look more like something that is actually trying to keep his body together. And then you have this thing too. It looks like the I think I said this in my Super 7 Ultimates review, that to me it looks like the Predator self-destruct button, like he'd like push that down and blow himself up or something. Where this, I don't know what that is. But I don't know. So, like I said, you can't beat the original Playmates version, but I do think that this NECA version is still pretty cool. I don't know. There's just so much more attitude or something like that. I don't know. Even in like the bottom of the boot, back here, he's got like these pistons and stuff like that. Where here it's just, just a box. Which, like I said, I understand why they had to do it. I'm just explaining why I think that the original one is way cool. It was the best. When it comes to articulation, the original Mutagen Man has less points than most Ninja Turtle action figures at the time. He only has 4, pretty much. His arms swivel around, and his legs can swivel. I mean, most Ninja Turtle toys had another cut somewhere in the arm so you can twist it somewhere, but he doesn't do that. And they also mostly had ball-jointed legs. That way you can get them into, I guess, different poses? I don't know. Having the swivel legs on Mutagen Man makes him one of the best figures because he can stand really easily. I guess this thing turns around too, but, is that really articulation? He has no head articulation, all the Ninja Turtles had that. This brand new Mutagen Man has some pretty cool points of articulation, some pretty decent ones. But, I don't know. I have more trouble moving this guy around than I had Ace Duck, because I feel like some bits and pieces kind of get in the way, they kind of hinder the articulation a little bit, such as the shoulder articulation here. Like when you try to rotate his arm up, you're going to hit that thing. So you have to, rotate his arm out a little bit so that he does not push into that. Another thing about the life support system is that I believe that these, they're all supposed to click into place very nicely. Like this one, it has a pretty solid ridge around there, so you can stick that in there. See how that clicks, right? But this side, it is like completely soft or worn down. Like it will not stay in there. So lots of times when I'm moving this guy around, this pops out of place, and then I got to try to put it back in all the time. It does not stay in. So that kind of stinks. The one at the top just kind of stays in place fine. All right, so the shoulders swivel around. They have a hinge. You have a bicep cut, so you can rotate them around. You have double jointed elbows, but as I said before, I'm not a huge fan of double jointed elbows. These actually look fine. I mean, they look better. They definitely look better than Ace Duck's double jointed elbows, because this he can only still rotate them so far. He really could have just made this a single one because he can't really get much of a, I don't know, he doesn't have much distance there with that. The hand rotates around and you have a hinge there. Another point that I was having trouble with, he has no rotation or anything in his torso. The legs, right? Because this like vinyl piece is so sturdy and covers up most of the pelvis and overlaps over the legs, when you try to move the legs, they just kind of get pushed right back into place. So you can move them around a little bit, but I don't know. It gets in the way. I was having trouble actually bending both joints in the knees here. One, like the bottom ones are stuck, and I feel like if I try to push them a little too much, I might accidentally break these rods and stuff. So I've mostly just been using the single point for articulation. And down here at the feet, there's a hinge and ankle rockers. I like how this moves up and down like that, those rods. That's cool, They're not like stuck in place, so this foot is stuck in place. They actually move, which is nice. There's a little bit of a ankle rocker on this one too. And a little bit of a hinge. So, that's all good. So this guy has two different heads, which is pretty nice. You have the sad head and you have the angry head. If you want to change the head, all you gotta do is pull the tubes out of his pecs, pop the one off the top by his forehead, and then that piece comes off the top. Now, if you try to pull from the top, I feel like it has a hard time coming out. It gets a little stuck down here at the bottom. So it's best to go from the bottom, like so. However, when you get to the head, it can be a little tricky getting the head out too, because there is a peg behind his head that his head is plugged into. Now, obviously, I didn't have that pushed in very far because, it's a pain in the neck trying to pull that off of there. But if you have it really pushed inside, it can get a little caught. So you pull that out. The spine is a separate piece. You can pull that out too. Bada bing. Where's the head? All right. So you get the angry head now. You can pop that onto the spine. There's a hole in the mutagen there. You can stick that in there. And then you try to do your best at trying to push the head back onto that peg. Oh, there we go. So that head went onto that peg, and now he's Angry Mutagen Man. But like I said, getting that head... See that? It is kind of neat when you look at this and you can see how they have these things wrapped around the pegs here for the arms. So, push that head back into place. Try to get the glass back in there. It's plastic, but I'm calling it glass. There we go. This head's a little side cocked, but whatever. All right. Now he's ready to go take care of April. So one of the, frequent hot topics on, Facebook and stuff like that is like, which do you like more, Super 7 or NECA, obviously both of them are trying to do completely different things. And I like everything, I'm happy that both of them are doing what they're doing. And even the Mutagen Man, the Ultimates version, the way that they did the life support system is a little better here. This glass, case here, because you can actually see his face a little better. You can see those eyeballs really sticking out in the brain. I love the extra paint on there. If I had to choose between both of these guys, I would go with Super 7. This is not a slight against NECA. This is just a personal preference. I liked the original action figure more than I liked how he appeared in the cartoon. Even though his design is, very faithful to the original toy, I don't know. I like all the crazy details that the original action figure had. All in all, I like this Mutagen Man a lot. I think he's pretty cool. Sure, he's the safe, cute Mutagen Man, but I like variety, to be honest with you. It's nice to see all these different cool variations of the same character. After further inspection of this action figure, I do think the peg in the back of the head is not the greatest thing, because sometimes you want him to be able to look up or even turn side to side can be a little difficult because you have that peg there. I bet that the head, would probably stay on that spine just fine by itself. And now, one of my absolute favorite things to discuss, accessories. I'll begin with the Ace Duck side. So here is the pistol or the revolver, and this looks pretty good. The details are nice. This is not a specific weapon to anybody. It's a very generic weapon, but in a way, that's a good thing because any villain or any good guy can hold this thing and use it if they need to. In the cartoon, most of the times when you see villains, they will have laser guns, right? Even the police, they will have laser guns instead of real guns. But there are some instances where you will see the police with a revolver. And, even in the very first episode, you see Scrag, with this revolver. Maybe in 2025, when we finally get Scrag from our Loot Crate boxes, I'll see if this brand new revolver fits in his hand. But until then, will this pistol or revolver fit in Ace Duck's hand? Why, yes. Yes, it will. You can get him to hold it forward, and you can move his finger so that it's actually on the trigger, which is really nice. What's really cool about this pistol is you can put it in his belt right here. And, if that flap gets out of the way. And you can actually close the flap on top of the pistol and lock it into place. Very nice. Up next is this cool handgun. And, I couldn't find anything that looked like this in the cartoon, at least from what I've seen so far. And I believe that it was included with Ace Duck because the original Ace Duck had this very cool handgun, this Service 45 pistol, It's very nice looking. Some details are similar, like those lines on the top there, but other than that, it's very different, The most important thing is always, will the gun fit in Ace Duck's hand? Yes, it fits in his hand really well. And again, you can put that trigger finger right over top of the trigger, That's excellent. You can put this in the belt, but because of the way that this is, sculpted, it's a different type of shape than the revolver. And I can't really get the flap over top of that, because of the hammer here sticks up so high. Wait a minute. I just had an apostrophe. Lightning just struck my brain. Maybe this thing is not a nod to the original Ace Duck action figure. Maybe it's actually a nod to the, 1988 April O'Neil gun. Lots of times they always throw in obscure items that don't belong to the characters of the 2-pack. Maybe they intended this to be like a gun for April O'Neil. And, now that I think about it, there is a gun that is sort of similar to this. In the episode, the foot soldiers are revolting from season 4. April has this gun for 2 shots, and then it disappears, never to be seen before or after in the whole cartoon. So maybe it's supposed to be that, Let's see if... Can April hold this gun? No. No way. There is no way that she can hold this thing. Her grip is way, way, way too small for this, handle. She cannot hold this. I'm going to break the fingers off. No, she cannot hold this. This is not intended for April at all. But, it is if it was a nod to this, it's a decent nod. I don't know. What do you think? Up next, Ace Duck has 2 egg grenades. And, these were not in the cartoon, of course. But, again, just like the handgun, these are based off of the original toy. Because the original toy had these cool little egg grenades. The biggest difference is, the pin is shaped a little differently, and these kind of have like a crack on the front of them, where these brand new egg grenades have these white or black stripes. The new ones look cool. I like the black stripes. Those are nice. These egg grenades are excellent. Sorry, I had to. But he can hold these really well with his trigger finger hands. And if you don't want him to hold them, he can carry them on the back of his belt, which is nice. You have those hoops there. The original action figure had 4, but this guy only gets 2. Up next, you get a Ace Duck movie poster. And, this is completely made up. It's not in the show or anything like that. And this looks really nice. This actually really does do a good job of looking like an old, 40s movie poster. The typeface, the letters, and even just the sort of simple, one figure shot like that. I don't know. Just the whole composition just reminds me of an old movie poster. So that's really awesome. And it says Ace Duck gets revenge with Drake Drummond. So I guess Drake Drummond is the actor that plays Ace Duck. Now here's some items which, can relate to Ace Duck because he's a movie star or whatever. But perhaps they can also be tied to other, TMNT cartoon lore, I guess. First up, you have the VHS tape. This looks pretty awesome, I still have a ton of these, from stuff I taped off of TV and just some old movies, but this is nice. I don't know if the proportions might be a little off, I feel like maybe it should be a little longer, but who cares? It still looks good. All the details are very nicely done. The paint looks good and whatnot. Now, VHS tapes show up a lot in the old show because the turtles are always watching tapes in the sewers. There's times when they go to the video store to rent a film like Snow White and the Seven Samurai, or they use a VHS tape to trick the enemy into, thinking aliens are invading or something like that, I love when the turtles return to the lair with a bag of tapes in the episode Adventures of Rhino Man. Seems like, this would be a cool accessory for NECA to put out in the future. Now, what will be perfect is when NECA finally releases their sewer diorama, if they release it, you can have this VHS tape sitting on top of their TV. Up next, you have this very cool looking spool of film. And of course, like I said, it could be referenced to Ace Duck because he's a old film star. And this is really nice too, because I like how the cylinder of, film actually has the lines. So it actually looks like it's, film rolled up inside of this spool. And then you just have a little bit of film coming off the end. I don't know. It's pretty neat looking. So like I said, it could be a reference to Ace Duck. Or I'd like to think that maybe it's the film from the season 4 episode, Rondo in New York. That episode introduced the Vitalizer, which was a cool substance that could bring inanimate objects to life. During that episode, some of the blue goo gets poured on some film reels, and some kind of cool looking movie monsters come to life. Some of these guys are pretty neat looking. And I like these nasty looking snakes. Now, onto Mutagen Man's side, and first up is Bindex 3. Now, this is the chemical or compound that, Shredder needs to stabilize the mutagen that he's going to put into the fuel tanks of a rocket ship so he can permanently mutate the people of New York into horrible monsters. It's also the compound that Mutagen Man needs to stabilize the mutagen inside of his body so he can permanently shapeshift back to normal. This looks fine. It looks pretty good. It does not say Bindex 3 on the tank here. You can see in the cartoon that, there is a scene where April's holding it and it says Bindex 3, but other times you can't see that, because they didn't want to animate that word moving around for a while, If you take a look at the container, you can see all the details like, like the nozzle and the handle on top and all that kind of stuff. And now you can come back to the toy and you can see that everything is there. Even that nozzle. The nozzle is calibrating. Mutagen Man comes with a set of very big gripping hands, so he can hold on to this Bindex 3 no problem. Last on Mutagen Man's side is the Super Slusher. And this is one cool looking toy. I mean, look at this thing. But obviously this thing is a parody of the Super Soakers. I mean, it kind of reminds me of a Super Soaker 200 from back in the 90s because it has like the twin canisters on top for the water. I mean, it even shoots water in the cartoon. But I'm getting ahead of myself here. You may have noticed that I never mentioned this during my Enter Mutagen Man episode review, right? That's because it wasn't in that episode. It wasn't even in the same season. This came from the season 7 episode, Revenge of the Fly. Firemen use this to put fires out, and hopefully they don't break as quickly as my Super Soakers did. They always lost power, But that's not the real reason why this is included in this, this 2-pack, The reason why it's included here is because Baxter Stockman uses this gun. In the episode Revenge of the Fly, Baxter steals some genetic essence of several different insects from a genetic research facility. That's what's in these vials. This yellow substance is the genetic essence of several different insects. All right, it works just like mutagen. And if he pours the genetic essence of a bee on you, you turn into a bee. So, in order to spray as many people as he can, he steals a super slusher. He sprays innocent civilians with this stuff, and they become insect people. Now, he puts the vials on the bottom of it so he can use the dial on top to pick which kind of insect he wants to turn you into. Now, you may think, wait, a gun with a dial on it that mutates you into the insect or animal of, whoever you choose? That kind of sounds like the Mutazoo ray gun that the computer Z gives Baxter Stockman in the season 3 episode Bye Bye Fly. He used that to turn the Shredder into a fly and Mikey into a gerbil. Why not just include that in the episode? Well, that gun does show up in the episode, the design anyway, but here it's the Shredder's weapon, and it reverses mutations. Despite having a dial on the back that shows different animals, it reverses mutations. I don't know why, but there's more to it, more TMNT lore, because Shredder calls this thing the Retro Mutagen Ray. So sounds to me like, this is supposed to be the Retro Mutagen Ray generator from Shredder and Splintered in season 1. That device reverses mutations, but it exploded. But in my opinion, the animators probably lost the model sheet for this thing, so they decided to use this gun instead. That's just lazy. Not to mention confusing. Like, if you decided to watch, all the Baxter Stockman episodes in a marathon, you'd be staring at your TV going wait a minute, that's not what that does, and it's not called that. So, from down below, you can see, the vials sticking out of the bottom. You can see the 2 handles and the general, Super Soaker 200 design. And then you can come to the toy, and you can see all that stuff there too. Now, when I first saw the toy, I was like, why are these yellow things sticking out? I had forgotten that these vials were on the bottom until I rewatched the episode and made sure that they were there. On the top here, you can see the valves in front of these tanks, and you can see the purple straps with the bolts and stuff like that. That's all cool. You have the dial on top, and of course, you can see that all in the cartoon, it's good. It's a very cool design, and I don't know, I just think that this toy looks great. This looks like a perfectly cool looking gun that you can use, I don't know, with anybody, but if you want it to be specific to what it's used for in that episode, you can see if it works with Baxter. So let's see if it works with Baxter. So here's Baxter holding this super slusher, and man, this thing is almost as big as him. It's gigantic. In all honesty, a lot of my favorite episodes of the original cartoon are Baxter Stockman episodes. I think that, he has some really, really good ones. And I'm glad that, they keep on giving him more and more weapons to use to fight the turtles. But, if you want to just use this with Mutagen Man, you can do that too, because NECA included a trigger finger. So that's awesome. So now we're done with most of the really cool things, and now all that's left is hands. But don't worry, hands can be pretty cool too. And first we're going to talk about Ace Duck's hands. He has 8 different hands. What all is included here? Well, you got a pair of pointer fingers, so Ace Duck can pretend that he's shooting people. Pew, 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 I gotcha. And you got a pair of trigger fingers, so he can really shoot people. You got a pair of fists, just in case you want Ace Duck to duke it out with the bad guys. You know, I get a definite, Indiana Jones vibe from this guy with this leather jacket and his fists out. Come on, put him up. And last, you got a very nice expressive hand or, reaching hand or whatever. That looks good. You can use that to emphasize poses and whatnot. And then you just have a thumbs up hand. Awesome. All these choices are great. Now up next is Mutagen Man's hands. So what all does he have? Well, he has 7 different hands. I don't know if he had 8 and I just lost one or what. It seems kind of strange that he would only have 7. But let's see, what all has he got here? He has a more relaxed hand, sort of a gripping hand or grabbing hand or reaching hand. But like I said, it's more relaxed, so you can do, use it for different things, which is nice. And then, of course, you have the trigger finger hand, which works well to hold the super slusher. That's fine. You have one very flat, reaching hand. Not necessarily a good expressive hand because it's too straight, It's a little too perfect. It looks like it's intentionally like this. Where the other more relaxed hands is just kind of like a nice little touch. Like the character isn't even thinking about how they're moving their hand, They just put their hand like that because it's a relaxed state. Or, you could use this to be like, no, please don't punch me anymore, sort of thing. Or maybe you could pretend that he's like reaching to grab somebody to do them harm. He also has a set of very big gripping hands. You can either use them to hold the Bind X3 or look at this. He can actually hold April up in the air with his hand. Now that is crazy. Maybe he wants to throw her into some mutagen so he can make her his mutagen bride. Now you're gonna look like me! And last, Mutagen Man has a set of fists, which is nice. I feel like every single toy should always have fists in all these lines. I don't see him necessarily punching anybody anytime soon, but it's just nice to include them here. And last but not least, these guys have these interchangeable heads, and that's it. I already talked about how you change these and all that before after I got done with articulation. So, that's it. That's all the accessories. And now I'm going to show you some things that I thought would be neat to put in this video. And, after that, we'll wrap it up a little bit. So this is a type of shot that I was including with pretty much all of my Super 7 Ultimates reviews. This is where I show you, the original Playmates action figures. And then, like magic, I show you what they look like in this, Ninja Turtle line. This is what they all look like in the Fred Wolf series. And as you can see, we only need one more. We only need Usagi Yojimbo. So that's pretty awesome. We have pretty much the whole 1989 wave of Ninja Turtles completely covered in this NECA toon line. Here's the 1990 wave of Ninja Turtles. This is probably my favorite wave of the whole line. It had so many cool, like, super detailed and super gross characters. I don't know. I loved all these guys, especially Scumbug and stuff. But here you can see what most of them look like in the Fred Wolf series. And now here is the sad part, is that, Panda Khan, Fugitoid, Pizza Face, and Ray Fillet never actually showed up in the original cartoon. So they will never have toys in this line. There is like a Ray Fillet character, but he's just called Ray in one episode of the original Ninja Turtle cartoon. But he doesn't look anything like Ray Fillet. So I would hope that NECA would possibly, I don't know, like take some artistic license here and, design action figures of what these 4 guys would look like if they had appeared in that original series. Sure, we're getting the Archie Ray Fillet this year or whatever, but, it's still a little different. I don't even know how you do like a full toy line scale comparison anymore. There's so many action figures in this line. It's ridiculous. The greatest thing about this line is that, all the characters are fun, they're characters we all grew up loving. And now, unlike that original Playmates toy line where they're pretty much all the same exact size, they're all the same height, roughly the same build, I guess, This line has so many different shapes and sizes. It's wonderful. Like, you have the big fat dude like Wingnut. You have the giant Chrome Dome. You have the little tiny people like Baxter Stockman. And, I don't know. This is an amazing toy line. And, hopefully you've been able to find most of these action figures. Here's Mutagen Man and Ace Duck next to some of the Ninja Turtle or Super 7 Ultimates. And that's it! You know, this took a while to make, but it had to be done. Overall, both of these guys are good, but you know, they have some minor problems. Probably Ace Duck, I think, is the better one out of both of them. If you compared these guys to some of the other 2-packs that have come out recently, like Anthrax, Scumbug, Wingnut, Screw Loose, Dirtbag, and Ground Chuck, they seem a little, I don't know, simple, I guess. But, you know, they're still essential characters done really well. So, thanks for watching, talk to you later, and have a good one.